नमस्कार, मेरा नाम है हर्षवर्धन सिंह। आप देख रहे हैं MSTV, शो है रूबरू। और ये बड़ी ही एक नज़दीक सी बात है मेरे लिए। मिठाइयाँ है थोड़ी, वो किस लिहाज से कि जब हम बड़े हो रहे थे एकदम शुरुआती दिनों में, तो उस समय कलर टीवी आए थे और नीचे एक नॉब होता था, ऐसे घुमाते थे उसको। उस पर एक शो आता था, स्वामी एंड फ्रेंड्स। उस शो से तो नहीं जुड़े हुए, मगर स्वामीनाथन सुब्रमण्यम हमारे साथ हैं। जनाब एयर ट्रैफिक कंट्रोल की दुनिया से आते हैं एंड ही इज़ एन आर्टिस्ट बाय सोल। जितना मैंने बात करी, जितना अभी तक मैंने उनकी पर्सनालिटी को समझा, मुझे ये समझ में आया। आज उनसे बात करेंगे उनकी ज़िंदगी के बारे में, एयर ट्रैफिक कंट्रोल के बारे में, और उसके अलावा एक स्टीरियोटिपिकल इमेज जो शायद किसी के दिमाग में हो सकती है, किसी ऐसे व्यक्ति की जो कि किसी एक टावर में बैठ के फ़्लाइट्स को बता रहा है, हाउ टू सेव लैंड एंड ऑल द अदर थिंग्स। So we'll talk about all these things. मेजरली बात होगी उनके बारे में, तो चलते हैं उनसे बात करते हैं। हेलो एंड वेलकम सर।
Namaskar.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show.
Pleasure is all mine to host you. Because as I've just said, we had a TV and it had a knob, tuck, changing, no? Whenever I get someone with whom I can talk and understand and relate without any bar of age. I'm relating with you right now, sitting in front of you without any bar of any age. I can be a 20-year-old, a 15-year-old, and I can relate to you when you're talking to me.
Absolutely. Just two adults, age is a number.
That way, yeah, exactly. And it's really good coming from you when you're saying that. So, Swami, tell me something about yourself that you feel as a human, which makes you feel human about you.
Okay. I retired recently. And there was one common thread. जितने भी मेरे दोस्त थे, मेरे साथ जितने भी लोगों ने काम किया है, they all had one common thing to say. They said that कभी भी 24 घंटे में कभी भी हमने स्वामीनाथन को फोन किया है and we asked him for some help. In as much as possible, he'd always be there for us. I don't know why that seems to be an overwhelming feeling, because I would think that they should talk about so many of the other things that I do. Like, for example, I always believe in a holistic development. So I sketch, I paint, I try to sing a little bit, although my children ask me to shut up.
I won't, so I will ask you to sing.
Yeah, let's keep it towards the very end when you want to wind the show up, right? And I used to play drums for my college. That was a very brief period.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been into theatre. Even during college days, and subsequently I've been a professional theatre artist. Even my educational background, if you see, like I've done my physics basic degree. I've just jumped on to metaphysics, and then I've done my master's in philosophy. I almost completed my MPhil in philosophy. Because of my transfers, I couldn't complete it. Then I did my MBA in systems and marketing management from the College of Engineering, Trivandrum. तो जितना भी है, और मैं अभी भी पढ़ता रहता हूँ. I'm interested in so many different things in life. I'm a huge movie buff. I keep seeing almost one movie every day. Really glued on to the visual medium. I'm too much into social media to the extent that at times I feel that I have to reduce my screen time. I'm very conscious nowadays, but unable to do it literally.
YouTube has a option nerd control one. Do you use that?
No.
Sometimes I have to use it.
Perhaps all of us have to. So मैं ये कह रहा था कि most of my friends would not talk about any of these things as something big, but they try to talk about something else, which I think is very, very natural. I think being human, unless we earn people, there is any amount of money that you can earn, any amount of fame that you can earn, any amount of so many other things that you can earn in your life. But there is something that you got to earn, and earning people. So you talk about the human aspect. I think that's the only thing which really counts. Nothing else. Nothing else, absolutely. If you can make a human connect, I think that is all that is important in life.
How do you do that? When I'm saying you, I'm talking about in a very general perspective. How do one makes that human connect? How does it happen?
There are so many ways, isn't it? As long as you endear yourself to somebody and you allow somebody else to endear to you, you make the human connect. Okay. When you're willing to listen, you're making a human connect. When you're talking and the other person is, being attentive paying attention to what you say, I think you make a connect. Each one of us needs the other person. In fact, the first lesson in civics in class in grade 3 is that man is a social animal who likes to admire and who likes to be admired. So that is the basis, So I mean, why are we humans so very special is that you like to admire people, you like others to admire you. So that in itself, makes it necessary for you to interact with people, and you can't interact with people unless you open your hearts out to the other person. And, see to it that you open the other person's heart and make an entry into it. So everything depends on this human interaction. Even the social contract theory that we are talking about in, the philosophies. Why do people come together? Why do people form societies? Why do you have contracts where you surrender your rights? And then, you take on certain duties and responsibilities on yourself. Everything has got this fundamental element of human interaction. So that's it. So as long as a person realizes this, then absolutely there is a connect to make. I'll also draw your attention to something, if I'm allowed to
Please.
show this. Off late I have started using my phone, and then I use my index finger to paint on that, and normally not more than 3 to 4 minutes to do each of these sketches. I've done close to about 2000, and normally the subject is not aware. तो मैं आपका चित्र बना रहा हूँ और आपको पता नहीं है. After 3 or 4 minutes I come and I show it to you कि ये आपका चित्र है.
I will act like मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं पता है, मैं देखूंगा भी नहीं आपकी तरफ. Well, I'll look that way.
Okay.
When you'll be making mine, no? When I'll ask you, when I'll beg you to make mine.
Sure.
So I have one more very very specific thing to ask. As you off the camera we were talking, you were really good at for that matter like everything when you went back in school. How was your journey making friends at that time? Because admiring people, getting admired, okay, we consider and we think that is quite easy for a child to understand at that schooling level, but there is a competition of getting marks and being good, being first. It stays there. So was it like that at your time as well? And if it was like that, how was your childhood while making friends and like being around people?
Yeah, so I mean, academically also I was good. I mean, I was always in the top 5 whenever I was undergoing some particular course in a school. My father's job was transferable. He was in a government job, All India Government Service. So, उनका जहाँ जहाँ transfer हो जाता था, I used to go there. I even learned languages. Like मेरा हिंदी पहले second language हिंदी था. When we were transferred, my dad was transferred to Madurai और वहाँ जाके मुझे तमिल सीखना पड़ा because there was a Hindi agitation in the 70s. जिस स्कूल में मैं पढ़ रहा था उन्होंने abruptly उन्होंने बोल दिया कि हम हिंदी नहीं सिखा पाएंगे, आपको तमिल सीखना पड़ेगा. तो grade 3 से मैंने तमिल सीखा.
Okay.
So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 I learned Tamil. फिर he was transferred to Belgaum in Karnataka. वहाँ जाके मुझे कन्नड़ा सीखना पड़ा because unless I studied Kannada, there was no which way that I could get into a school. So Kannada was my third language. They were not willing to offer me additional English. So later on I went on to learn Malayalam. So I can read the script of all the South Indian languages, which is very, very interesting.
How long the list is actually?
Huh?
How long this list is?
Nothing. No. It's not very long. I can speak English, Hindi, Tamil and Malayalam fluently. I can read these languages pretty comfortably. Kannada and Telugu, I can read the script. I'm not in touch, so I may not be in a position to speak, but I think I can understand reasonably well. When somebody and then it's very interesting. अगर दो लोग कनाडा में ये सोच के बात करेंगे कि मुझे समझ में नहीं आएगा तो पक्का समझ में आएगा.
तब तो जरूर आएगा.
Absolutely, and that's interesting.
I was asking about your childhood, थोड़ा सा.
Yeah, so the advantage of trying to do so many things. I also used to be in sports. I used to play cricket. 6 बजे सुबह घर से निकल गया तो रात तक मैं खेलता रहा. I was even so crazy and restless. मैं अपने एक बैग के अंदर एक चेस बोर्ड, एक लूडो बोर्ड, जितना भी गेम्स है, ट्रेड, व्हाट यू कॉल ट्रेड, all these things, ये सब लेके जाता था. घर घर जाता था. जिस घर में कोई बच्चा मिल जाता था, I used to sit with the child and play that game till their parents, or his or her parents would kick me out saying that you're unnecessarily spoiling my child's time and education. तुम तो पढ़ लोगे लेकिन मेरे बच्चे को खराब कर दोगे. So that's when I would go, and then probably I'll get into somebody else's house. There is this constant yearning to interact with people. So it's always better. The more things you do, you get to know more people because सबका एक इंटरेस्ट नहीं होता है ना. आई मीन एवरीबडी हैज गॉट अ लिमिटेड सेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. और अगर एक बंदा ये सारा कुछ कर सकता है, देन इट इज इंटरेस्टिंग. बट देन देयर इज वन प्रॉब्लम. आई एम अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ द रामकृष्ण मिशन. परमहंस ने एक बार, रामकृष्ण परमहंस ने बहुत अच्छा एक उपदेश दिया है. उन्होंने बोला है कि अगर 10 जगह पे आप 3 फुट खोदोगे, आपको पानी नहीं मिलेगा. एक जगह पे आपको 30 फुट खोदना पड़ेगा. तो मैंने कई जगह पे 10-10 फीट खोद के रखी है. 30 फुट कहीं पे खोदना पड़ेगा पानी ढूंढने के लिए. सो आई मे हैव डन सो मेनी थिंग्स. I may have been a jack of many trades, but then, you know, I think there is a time that I'll have to, you know, attain mastery. But that way, my air traffic control profession has indeed helped me. You know, that's one place where I can say I really mastered that. And I'm not saying this from my own side. There are lots of people who will, you know, the pilot community would vouch for that.
Let's talk about that only. Tell me.
I want to tell you something. Yeah, very interesting. In fact, I'll just take off from where you left. Introductory note में आपने बताया कि स्वामी टावर से जहाज को कंट्रोल करता है. In fact, one of the biggest problems is air traffic control is something which is happening behind the screens. It's a closed world. Nobody knows. You know, बाहर से किसी को पता नहीं है कि ATC में क्या होता है. आजकल थोड़ा बहुत पिक्चर्स वगैरह आने लगे हैं where you have the ATC background and all that. Even the media when they report, they say you know, 2 फ्लाइट के बीच में एयर मिस हो गया. There was an air proximity incident. The tower controller and then signal नहीं मिला and all that kind of thing. The air traffic control tower is seen because it is visible. आप देख रहे हो कि यहाँ दिल्ली में 100 मीटर से ऊपर टावर है. और you know, there's a race in the world to have higher and taller towers and so on so forth. Especially बड़ा एयरपोर्ट में अगर ज़्यादा आपको ज़मीन पे देखना होता है, ग्राउंड में कई टैक्सीवेज हैं, एप्रन्स है, वहाँ ऊपर
टैक्सीवेज एंड एप्रन्स,
we'll come to it later. तो वो देखने के लिए एक टावर जो है, वहाँ से the higher it is, then the greater you know, surveillance with the naked eye that you can do. And so that is the reason why they push up the height of these towers. Otherwise, normally 35-40 meters से लेके 60-65 meters तक most of the towers are at these heights. But even these are very prominent. आप एक airport को देखोगे, the first thing that you see is tower. So you think all the controllers are working in the tower, and this is the first, you know, fallacy or a myth. The thing is that aerodrome control only takes care of controlling air traffic in the vicinity of an airport. मतलब एक 10 किलोमीटर तक 5 nautical mile कहते हैं, because you have the kilometers, you got the statute miles and you got the nautical miles. Aviation में nautical mile use होता है. So but you know, up to 5 nautical miles, 3000 feet, इतना ही लिमिट के अंदर जो भी जहाज है उसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए एरोड्रोम कंट्रोल से the tower controller handles it. उसके बाद in an airport, you see, I mean, like Delhi airport में बैंगलोर से जहाज आता है, चेन्नई से आता है, अमृतसर से आता है, जयपुर से आता है, उदयपुर से आता है, you know, बॉम्बे से आता है, कलकत्ता से आता है. And there is such a lot of crisscrossing of these aircraft, and departures take place to these places. They'll have to cross each other in 3 dimension, climb and descend, and the controller has to make it happen to land these, and then, you know, have these departures climb to their cruising levels, which is something like, you know, 39,000, 41,000 feet and so on and so forth. वो इसको चढ़ाना भी है, clear of each other, without, you know, each forming a traffic to the other, that they should be well separated. ये काम एक अप्रोच कंट्रोलर करता है. इट इज लाइक एन ऑफिस लाइक दिस, यू नो, उसके सामने रडार होता है, रडार में देख के जहाज को वो कंट्रोल करता है. यू कैन ऑल्सो हैव विदाउट रडार इफ इन केस द ट्रैफिक इज नॉट मच. अप्रोच कंट्रोल प्रोसीजरली भी हो सकता है, बट नॉर्मली सर्वेलेंस यूनिट जहां जहां है, कंट्रोलर यूजेस द सर्वेलेंस, द ADS-B or the radar, and then based on that he is in a position to control traffic and then provide them suitable headings, and you know, or there are standard arrivals and all that. I don't want to become too technical, but एक approach control unit होता है.
Okay.
And this is up to 20,000 feet and up to about 60 miles from the airport. Beyond this again, say for example, an aircraft is flying all the way from Delhi to Mumbai. Delhi का area control center होता है, up to 200 miles Delhi controls the aircraft. So beyond the 60 miles up to 200-220 miles, Delhi का on route center control करता है. There are multiple sectors. वहां से अहमदाबाद टेक ओवर करता है, अहमदाबाद कंट्रोल के बाद मुंबई कंट्रोल टेक ओवर करता है. देन इट गोज टू मुंबई अप्रोच बिफोर लैंडिंग, देन इट इज चेंज्ड ओवर टू द मुंबई टार. इवन विद इन द टार यू हैव मल्टीपल यूनिट्स.
Okay.
Like बड़े बड़े टावर में एक कंट्रोलर जो है कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाएगा. सो इवन इन दिल्ली यू गॉट 3 or 4 कंट्रोलर्स सेपरेट टावर एरोड्रोम कंट्रोलर्स. हर एक रनवे के लिए अलग कंट्रोलर होता है.
अच्छा.
बिकॉज यू नीड दैट काइंड ऑफ अ फोकस. Number one. Number two is that जमीन पे जो जहाज चाहते हैं. Now you wanted to know about the apron and taxiways and all. So at an airport, wherever you have a place for the aircraft to park, you got the aero bridges that you see. और कहीं जहाज रुक जाता है तो वहाँ से एक it's called a bay or a stand, aircraft stand. वहाँ से ladder लगा के passengers are disembarked from there. So the movement from these places, right from the starting up of the engines and then these aircraft taxiing through these aprons and apron taxi lanes, and then between them and the runway taxiways होते हैं. They are called taxiways. They're just like your network on the road. यहाँ control करने के लिए there is a separate unit called the surface movement control. Okay. And then you also have separate clearance delivery positions क्योंकि they can't. Every aircraft should know well in advance before it departs what kind of a clearance it can expect so that they can plan, and that can be entered into the flight management system on both the aircraft. The avionics permits it today. Everything is almost computerized. And what is happening today with the modern technology is that the clearance delivery can also be given digitally so that यहाँ air traffic controllers type करता है, key करता है, so that goes directly into the flight management system. So the pilot can read it, or there is not even a conversation taking place on the radio telephony between. So that what are the fundamental ways that the controller interacts with the pilot is through radio telephony, the VHF, very high frequency radio telephone.
Right.
So he speaks to the pilot and on discrete frequencies. जैसे आप radio channels करते हैं, so each one has a frequency and they are all discrete frequencies. So the same thing happens as far as the air traffic controller and the pilots are concerned. And then in the modern times, you also have the digital way of communicating directly with the cockpit, and that can happen at 2 levels. Clearance delivery, मैंने बताया. Even there is something called the controller pilot data link communication. En route phase maybe, instead of talking on very high frequency, they can always come through CPDLC.
What?
And the controller pilot data link communication. So, say for example, if an aircraft is flying at 35,000 feet. Over the high seas, वहाँ तो VHF का range नहीं होता, because you know anybody knowing basic physics will know up to about 200 nautical miles or 400 kilometers is how far you can transmit on very high frequency because of the curvature of the earth. So beyond that, now what happens? So the aircraft can log on to a controller pilot data link communication. There are facilities available between the centers, air traffic control centers and the flights aircraft. So they can ask, say for example, he's at 35,000 feet and he wants to climb to say 37,000 feet. He can simply send a request to the center. Like suppose वो Indian Ocean के ऊपर fly कर रहा है, he can key into the Madras or the Chennai Oceanic Control Center and say that look, I want 370, this is my position. The controller can key back, say that okay, climb to flight level. If there is no traffic in the opposite direction or the same direction, and there is adequate longitudinal separation and so on and so forth, he can just climb that aircraft. So there are multiple units. इसके अलावा there is also an ATS reporting office, जहाँ flight plans लिए जाते हैं. There is something called the Flight Information Center, which monitors within the entire flight information region all information regarding flights. क्योंकि search and rescue also is the responsibility of the air traffic control.
How does it take place?
Yeah. For example, if an aircraft doesn't, for some reason, there is a radio communication failure and so on and so forth. Let me bring back the Malaysian 370. Malaysian 370 suddenly गायब हो गया. So somebody is responsible to see, you know, suddenly if it vanishes. So there are multiple protocols. Like, let me put it this way. एक माँ बाप है घर में, आप, you're the son. You say that you'll come at 6:30. If you don't show up at 6:30, they start the search and rescue for you. Maybe at 6:30 they get some call from you and then they expect you at 6:40. So, you know, there is some kind of a protocol where, you know, your family members start looking for, you know, somebody within the family and carry over, you know.
Understood.
Ensure. The same thing should happen. If an aircraft is flying, the aircraft is in contact with one air traffic control center or the other, or a particular unit of the air traffic control center. that unit is also additionally not only responsible for the air traffic control service, which is preventing collision between that aircraft and other aircraft, it is also responsible to provide the search and rescue services. So अगर जहाज ने एक रिपोर्टिंग पॉइंट पे रिपोर्ट नहीं किया है या बहुत समय से मतलब it has not informed the ATC center, और लैंडिंग एयरक्राफ्ट आप एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हो कि दिस एयरक्राफ्ट शुड हैव लैंडेड, लैंडिंग क्लियरेंस देने के 5 मिनट बाद भी वो लैंड नहीं करता. देयर आर मल्टीपल प्रोटोकॉल्स. अगेन आई डोंट वांट टू गेट इनटू द टेक्निकल डिटेल्स. Then the controller should start the search and rescue.